Hey guys, it's Chris, and welcome to Toned and Toneful, the self-actualization video series, episode number 76, The First Plateau. So in this week's episode, guys, we are going to be continuing the New Beginning series. This is the third installment, and we're going to be talking about the first plateau. One of the hardest parts about entering a new project and being filled with hope, deciding to take it on, and do all these new things that you thought would be leading you to a higher self is experiencing the first plateau. Finding out that problems are starting to arise. Whether that is seeing that your discipline isn't as strong as you thought it was, running into coordination problems, something as simple as the venue that you were going to do your show at is having a problem with a schedule for the timing, is having a problem with the opening band not being able to be there, or inconsistencies within yourself that are leading you to not be able to perform at the same level that you thought you would be able to. These are all incredibly hard to deal with, and while they are perfectly natural, it puts a lot of people in a place where they don't finish the projects that they're starting on. And it puts a lot of people in a place where, from that point on, the project's never the same. They view their passion and they view their ability to stay consistent as something that is almost dreadful. And in this episode, I want to go over some of the little things that you can learn from that and some of the things that we can take that will help us be more consistent. So the honeymoon phase is now starting to end. You're running into your first couple problems and you're starting to notice, do I really wish that I took on this project anymore? Am I happy that this was something that I chose to do? Or do I wish that there was a way that I could almost take it back? Is the core reason I've done this for anything that means anything to me anymore? I was hoping for growth. I was hoping to make new friends. I was hoping to write music that would make me feel legendary. And now I'm at a point where, I'm experiencing writer's block. This guest solo that I thought I was going to take on is starting to get really hard to write. What once sounded like an inspiring track to play over is now starting to sound silly. The parts that you're starting to write over it sound contrived and almost like you're forcing yourself to spit something out. And your original hope to write something that was new and something that would give you a personal engagement into the project is now starting to be judged against what you're seeing on social media, starting to be judged against what other people thought of it when you showed them a little clip. But this is where we have a really big place to learn. That feeling that we're experiencing in the plateau is the exact feeling that you should be feeling. And I know this sounds contrary because a lot of people would want to hear, oh, you're supposed to keep feeling positive. With discipline and with a right mindset, this project's going to be fun the whole time. But enduring the process means that we must understand that there are pieces of that process that are not as enjoyable to us. And being able to see through that part of it and approach it with the understanding that the process is the reward, that is actually a bigger thing to chew on than we might actually think in the beginning. Being able to take, for example, I've done guest guitar solos for people. And when you're writing them, it's a very interesting thing. You're trying to express yourself. You want to meet the music that you're writing hand in hand. You want to bring those things together. But as you're working on it, you're starting to understand slowly. You're starting to understand in a way that the song is requiring a certain thing. And maybe your original way of doing something isn't going to be 100% able to be done. Maybe the gig that you're trying to, do it for, the sound isn't exactly the way you want. But the point I'm trying to make is, as you write the solo, you're watching things on social media. You're judging stuff. You're saying, does my solo have as many fast parts as this guest solo that someone did on someone else's song? Is my solo that I'm writing as technical as it should be, as musical as it should be, as soulful as it should be? Is it as timeless as it should be? But you can hear as I add each adjective to this description of this particular piece of music you're supposed to write, it's becoming too much. There's no way that someone can write a solo that's all those things in one unless you were writing from your heart and knowing that the context of it could be that to somebody. Let me rephrase that. The context at which it's viewed, it could be timeless. It could be soulful. It could be all those things at the same time. But that is in the ears of the listener. And the things that you need to create need to be that to you. So you're working with the piece of music you're given and you're working through that. And as you do, you can finally let yourself be happy with what you've worked on. And this is a really big deal because you're never going to achieve any of those adjectives for what you're trying to achieve if the only thing in your mindset was to be all those things. The music is what it is. And this helps the plateau become less. Because the plateau is a flattening of feelings. A real plateau in life is when we hit a flattened line. We're no longer ascending or descending. But what comes up must come down. And with the day comes the night. And it's hard to recognize that even in our best moments of the honeymoon phase of the project, the conceptualizing the solo, the setting the guitar up, putting the new strings, whatever you're doing to prep up, whether you're going to be having an art showing and the first paint stroke is so fun. But as you're ending near the end of the painting, every paint stroke that you do is kind of determined by the paint stroke that came before it. And now you're feeling limited because the project is actually more close to its finished process. Even at the midpoint, you're still experiencing the limiting properties of what you've already done previously. But the plateau is really a signal of something. It is the signal of your understanding of your internal emotion. And for you to say, hey, I understand that deep inside of me, I want things to move up. I want things to rise. But at the same time, the more that things rise, you're either going to crash harder or you're going to plateau harder. Our feelings can't only be in the up. And that plateau might not only be an emotional thing. It might also be things that are technical. Our time management is poor. And we're starting to run into that the project is getting closer to a time that it's due. And mentally, for some people, it is easy actually to turn off the brain and not want to deal with it and flatten the emotion because the anxiety is getting high. And for some people, this might work to flatten the emotion to the point that they're able to focus and work harder. But no matter what situation we're in, the plateau is very hard because it puts us in a spot where we must confront uncomfortable feelings and uncomfortable situations in order to move forward, in order to reach that success. The finished product, the finished idea, the completion of the process. And that's why this is so integral in any project. And you can't really say that you've ever done a full project without going through every part of the process. The up, the plateau, and you can go down after. You can choose not to finish the project. You can choose to give up and relinquish that tension. Because the plateau brings tension. Because the natural human experience wants up or down. It wants to feel more. It wants to be brought in by an overwhelming level. But if we can learn to live under the tension of the plateau, we can start to see that this is our moment to shine. This is our moment to really actually lock in and start to understand that in that locking in, that's where the most beautiful details of the project sometimes come out. That's where the most beautiful details of things really happen. We can take a basic look at a relationship. The beginning stages are full of ups. Learning about somebody, new information, the first time making love to somebody, the first time kissing somebody, all those things. And then you hit that plateau. You've had an argument. You've been up. You've been down. You've laughed. You've cried. Now the relationship is feeling a little stagnant. But it isn't really stagnant. It's because you can't realize that in the middle part of that process, in that first feeling of neutrality, it's not going so great. It's feeling a little bit of tension. It's that this is your place to start building, actually. And so with that in mind, I want to go over 4 questions that, again, will be in a worksheet PDF that you guys will have. But I want to present these questions to you guys so you can hear them here in the video series. And so question number 1. Now that you are facing your first doubts and trials, what is left? Is the core reason that you started this project enough to keep you engaged? Or was the progress fueled by novelty? Question 2. When your practice or work begins to feel forced, do you white knuckle the situation? Or do you remember that the goal is to show up consistently despite your results? Question number 3. When the dread of the goals start to set in, do you compare how you felt in the beginning with everything that you feel now? Is the comparison destroying your ability to enjoy this moment? Question number 4. We are always waiting to see the rewards for our efforts. But have you ever taken the time to remember your origin reason and how invisible growth will eventually lead to the tangible growth? These are a few things that I like to think about when I'm facing a plateau, about what it means to be in a situation that I'm trying to grow from, and that I'm trying to say, hey, I understand that I'm feeling this tension. I understand that by comparison, the honeymoon stage felt better. But what is truly feeling better? Is it me not loving this part of the process? Is it me not being familiar with where I am in the process at this moment that makes me feel uncomfortable? And I don't know how to deal with it in a way that I can make it productive? Or is it just something that I don't enjoy as much and I need to learn to be consistent, to push it to a section of the process that I do enjoy more? So these are some things to think about in the first plateau. Again, this is part of the New Beginning series for March. This is the 3rd installment, the first plateau. And I really thank you guys for being here. And remember, above all else, stay toned and toneful.